It is another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the three films of April 18th, 2008. As I said before, yes, there are other movies that came out this weekend, but I haven't seen them, so and they're not really that memorable to begin with, but so I'm not going to mention them in this one here. But we are going to take a look at the three big new releases of this weekend, including Jackie Chan and Jet Li working together in an action film, Jason Segel starring in the latest film from producer Judd Apatow, and Al Pacino in a real-time thriller. So let's get started by taking a look at the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Jackie Chan and Jet Li starring in The Forbidden Kingdom. So this is loosely based off of a 16th century Chinese novel called Journey to the West, where you have the plot revolving around Jason Tripticus, that's a weird name, played by Michael Angarano, who is a modern-day American teenager who is transported back to ancient China after discovering the Monkey King's magical staff. He accompanies Old Hop, played by Jackie Chan, and Silent Monk, played by Jet Li, on their quest to return the staff to its rightful owner, while trying to avoid the minions of the evil Jade Empire, played by Colin Cho. And this is directed by Rob Minkoff, who did The Lion King and Stuart Little, and written by John Fusco, who did Young Guns. But this was being sold as a major project, considering that Jackie Chan and Jet Li were starring in a movie together. And of course, Jackie Chan had been in a lot of other action movies. He was in Drunken Master, of course, and Jet Li. Jet Li has done Fearless, and of course Hero. So this was a pretty big deal for fans of these two to come together in a movie like this. But to say it's underwhelming is very much not an understatement. This is a very underwhelming film indeed. I mean, yeah, it's cool that you get to see Jackie Chan and Jet Li working off each other, fighting each other, and going off on these adventures, but you could tell that the film was trying way too hard to be sort of the next never-ending story, like a family adventure or film where it's an adventure where they go into this person goes into a fantasy world, and he's supposed to be it's a fish out of water story, and we've seen this stuff done before so many times, and you think with a director like Rob Minkoff, who has done movies like Stuart Little and also The Lion King, you would expect a lot more from it, and there's just not enough of it there to really keep the film is a film that's actually tolerable and something that actually makes it worth it in the end. Ooh, excuse me. It's so plain and forgettable, I'm burping about it, but yeah, other than that, though, it's just kind of a bland movie in general. Yeah, the action sequences can be cool sometimes, but I guess maybe because I'm not into these movies so much, like most people are, but I kind of expected a lot more from it, per se. I think if you are a fan of movies with Jackie Chan and Jet Li, and are fans of watching them in this genre, this wuxia genre that they're in, I guess you can find it more enjoyable than I did, but for me, it's passable. It's good for maybe a one-time watch for me personally, but it's one I really don't ever want to watch again, per se. Not to say that it's bad or anything, but it's just something that I really have no interest in ever watching again, per se. Now, the next movie I can watch several times because it is one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is Jason Segel in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. So, Forgetting Sarah Marshall tells the story of Peter Bretter, played by Jason Segel, who's a music composer for a TV show that features his girlfriend, Sarah Marshall, played by Kristen Bell, in the leading role. After a 5-year relationship, she breaks up with Peter. Devastated by this event, he chooses to go to vacation in Hawaii in order to try to move forward with his life. The trouble is, he runs into Sarah on the island, and she is on vacation with her latest boyfriend, played by Russell Brand. I think this was where everyone thought that saw Russell Brand for the first time, and thought that he was going to have a good future in film. I mean, it was a good 5-year run while it lasted, but then they shipped him off back to England, and now I have really no idea what he's up to nowadays. I think he's become one of those right-wing actors per se, but I don't know about that. But on this island, you also have other characters played by Paul Rudd. Mila Kunis plays this new love interest for Segel, and Jonah Hill is also in there as well. This is directed by Nicholas Stoller. This was actually his first film as a director, even though he had written other works beforehand. Like, he had done a lot of other movies and TV shows, and of course he would later go on to direct several other comedies, some pretty good ones overall. Like The Neighbors movies, Storks. He did a really good underrated one that came out a couple of years ago with Billy Eichner Brothers, or Bros, if you would say. But yeah, this is without a doubt his best movie to date. I mean, this is still one of those great comedies that I was skeptical when it came out. I remember, Richard Roeper, back when even Roeper was still on the air, they were talking about how, this is one of the greatest comedies ever made, and I was really, really looking at it and going like, okay, you're throwing a lot of high praise on this movie, only for me to be let down by it. I mean, I was let down by Drobert Taylor, not but a few weeks prior to that, and that had Judd Apatow's name on it. So I was going into this with slightly lower expectations, and that worked because, yeah, this movie is pretty friggin' amazing. It's Jason Segel, doing it's Jason Segel proving that he can be a great leading actor, and he works really well in here. He's a great funny comedian. He's a great comic actor, not really a comedian, but of course he showed that with what he did with How I Met Your Mother, those years as Marshall Erickson. He's great on that show, and he's got good chemistry with both Bell and Mila Kunis. He has this really good charismatic charm to him that works very well, and it's a very creative movie too. Like, this is a film where you're not only watching him because he's such a good leading actor, but the guy has a lot of talent, man. He's a great music. You see here, he's good at making music. He's good at and he's good with puppeteering work. There's a great subplot with him where his true passion is that he wants to write a Dracula puppet comedy rock opera, and of course at the end of the movie, when he has that situation where he's got to choose where life is going to take him, he gets to do it, and it really does show why he was so the right choice to do that Muppet movie that came out a couple of years later, which I still think is a fantastic movie, minus the post-credits ending, but we'll save that for another day. But I love this movie, man. It's a classic movie. It shows a lot of great comic potential from all the stars involved here. Even people that you wouldn't expect. Like, Kristen Bell had been on Veronica Mars up to this point, but nobody really knew if she could transition to more comedic roles in general. Mila Kunis had been on That 70s Show and Family Guy, so everyone kind of expected that. And Russell Brand was very charismatic and very fun in here. He's an obnoxious boyfriend, but he's not at the point where he's completely annoying rather than what he would later become on down the road. Like, you really do get behind him, and you really do feel like, yeah, he is a likable person, and a damn good singer, too. I mean, he has a good song in the movie where, it's hard not to realize the true potential of this guy as an actor as a whole. Unfortunately, that didn't pan out as well 10 years later, but, or even now, almost 20 years later, but Forgetting Sarah Marshall is a classic movie, definitely one of the best Judd Apatow-produced movies, one of my favorite comedies of all time. Yeah, I could see why people were loving it at the time, and yeah, it lived up to every bit of the hype and then some. It's a great comedy. I can't recommend it enough. Forgetting Sarah Marshall, definitely check it out. So with that said, let us move on to the last one we have here, and that's Al Pacino's 88 Minutes. So this is another one of those real-time action thrillers that we got around that time. Vantage Point was another one, but that was definitely a lot better than this film. You have a famed forensic scientist psychiatrist played by Al Pacino, who's one of the most sought-after profilers in the world. His expert testimony resulted in the conviction of a serial killer played by Neil McDonough. However, on the eve of Forster's execution, one of Graham's students is murdered by a vicious copycat crime, and Graham receives an ominous message informing him that he has 88 minutes to live. And so at that point, then the movie becomes a movie that literally is in real time. It takes place within 88 minutes, even though this is almost a 2-hour movie and 110 minutes long. And a good idea, a good concept overall. You've got a lot of really good talent in here. Not just Al Pacino, but not just Neil McDonough, but you also have Alicia Witt, Lily Sobieski, William Forsythe, Deborah Kara Unger, Amy Brenneman, Benjamin McKenzie. So there is a lot of good talent all across the board in here. The problem is that the movie is very generic, it's very predictable, and Neil McDonough, who could play a menacing force when he needs to, this is one of those films where the director really did not give him a good idea of what they wanted to do here. Like, this guy is not threatening by any means necessary, and the big twist that happens at the end of the movie, it's not worth it when it's all said and done. And it's just like, you really feel underwhelmed by what you just sat through. It's just like, man, there was such a good idea in here, and there's just nothing there to cement how good it can really be. It's a film that is just so bland, it's so generic, the twist is not that good. It's a terrible movie. It's a film that takes a lot of the potential of what this film could have really been and just completely avoids it. And this is a director who's done some good work. John Avnin is the director of this. This is the guy that did Fried Green Tomatoes. This is the guy that did stuff like The War. He did movies like He's done movies like you'll have a better movie that comes out this year with Al Pacino in it, Righteous Kill. And the writer of this is Gary Scott Thompson. Gary Scott Thompson is, a guy who was mostly known for his work on the Fast and Furious movies. He did stuff like, he did Hollow Man. I literally just have it right here. I just completely forgot about it. He was the guy that also did Las Vegas, the show with Josh Duhamel and James Caan. That was a fun show for a little bit. So yeah, there is a lot there where the talent should be there, but it just doesn't come together in the end. And it doesn't help that the twist really makes it worse than it has to be, and it just completely ruins the ebb and flow. It's a mess of a film. It's a sloppy film, and I'm really disappointed by the ending. It's just a real mess of a film. Yeah, avoid this one like the plague. 88 minutes. Definitely, you could do so much more in your time than just this movie. Avoid 88 minutes like the plague. And so, with all of that said, that's going to wrap this episode of Time About the Movies up. The next time we meet, we'll take a look at the penultimate weekend before the summer of 2008 kicks off. And we got some pretty good movies to start off here. At least one. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler working together for the first time since Saturday Night Live with their comedy Baby Mama. We have the sequel to Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. They escape from Guantanamo Bay this time around. And we have the erotic thriller Deception with Ewan McGregor and Hugh Jackman and Michelle Williams among the cast in it. So we'll take a look at those movies coming up on tomorrow's show. But until then, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please go ahead and hit the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And also, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, notification button, and the bell. That's when you get updates on when new videos come out. And we do post new videos here every day. So with all that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care.